Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. So thanks for joining the Google Hangout session. And we have Megha with us and Srinath here in the room with us. And I'm going to we have Megha with us and Srinath here in the room with us. And I'm going to Oh, it's big. Yeah, hi. We're back, and I hope you can hear us. I'm going to quickly take a couple of minutes and just talk about ABI and set context before we jump into the entire submissions and the format of submissions. So, so basically, Anita Borg Institute is a not-for-profit organization that works on building women in technology and computing. We started the Grace Hopper Conference in India in 2009, and this is going to be our 6th edition, and we've grown in strength over the years. Last year, we had close to 2,500 participants, and over 45 companies participated, and we had more than 300 students who participated. And just to give you an idea on submissions, we had close to 1,400 submissions last year, and the committee members, which is close to 500 people, had a really tough time choosing and streamlining these submissions and ranking them and getting the best and working with them to get the best out in the conference. So having set context to that, I'm going to quickly jump into the various formats that we have for submissions, and you'll just have to bear with me and give me 1 minute while I pull up the presentation. The PDF. This one, huh? Responsibility. English. Hi. Just like to also mention that the program chairs for this year is Nivedita from CA, Chitra Gurjar, who's an independent consultant, used to be with NetApp, and Smita Larry, who used to be with Intel and is an independent consultant now. Our conference, as most of you know, is kind of divided into various tracks, and there's also the career fair, the hands-on lab, and the keynotes. Right, and most of you will know that the committees, we have over 500 committee members who work intensely at the background to get this conference going. Just to also reiterate a quick snapshot of the participant profile. In 2010, we had 600 participants, and last year we closed with a lot of difficulty at 2,500 people. That's how much the conference has grown. And in terms of format of the conference, day one, which is December 7th, would be at the Manyata Tech Park at White Orchid, where we'll do our keynotes and our panel, our CIO panel, and we will have a grand lunch and a little entertainment there. Then day 2 and day 3, that is December 8th and the December 9th, we go into Taj Vivanta Yashwantpur, where we will have our parallel tracks, our career fair, and our hands-on lab and our poster session. Yeah, and following as last year's format, we will have the technical day on December 8th, and we will have December 9th as the entrepreneurship track, the management track, and the leadership track. I'd just like to reiterate the fact that we position the Grace Hopper Conference, the Grace Hopper Celebration, as a technology conference for women. It's a conference for the women, by the women, and we're very proud about the way it's shaped up over the years. So before I jump into the different technical tracks and the non-technical tracks, I just like to talk about the different kind of submissions that we take in. One is there's a panel submission. You could submit for a panel discussion. You could submit for a workshop. You could submit for a lightning talk, or different formats of presentation. So those are the 4 formats in which we take in our submissions, and a lot of these details in detail is there on our website, and we would like you to take a look at it. But I'm going to invite Chitra to talk about the technical tracks and some of the expectations around the technical tracks. So yeah, Chitra, the chair is yours.
Okay, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here on this Hangout session, so thank you, Google. And so to add to what Kritika said, none of the submissions or the formats of presentation are actually cast in stone. It's quite dependent on the submissions. So for example, what's happened in the past also, and what we've seen, is that if there are a lot of submissions that are meritorious, and let's say the sort of chime in well with a particular theme. So let's say, for example, somebody is talking about virtualization and platforms of virtualization on the cloud, specific to other environments, and there are several submissions in that space. Then we do tend to bring such tracks together. It could be in the form of multiple smaller presentations, or in the form of a panel, or in the form of maybe if it's a single presentation, then that merits a session by itself. So I'll pause and see if anybody has any questions.
These are the questions posted already.
Okay, so I'll just take a couple of questions here. One of the questions is, should we always have a minimum 3-pager abstract? What I'd say is, make sure that your abstract is powerful, okay, because that's the indicator of what your paper or your presentation or your topic is likely to be. It definitely need not be 3 pages, or it could be 3 pages if you would like to elaborate and pack in more of a punch into your abstract. So while we look at more questions coming along, I'll quickly talk about some of the technical tracks. So this year we actually have 3 technical tracks that are being championed for the first time. The first one is the human-computer interface, the HCI track. This is going to be something very interesting, because in this area there's a lot happening out there. So to all UI, UX designers and HCI-centric engineering, or even people who want to know more about what's happening in this space, this is a fabulous track that's coming up, shaping very well. The other new one that's there for the first time is the open source track. Again, we thought that there's so much activity happening in the open source space, especially when you look at areas like OpenStack, the solutions available for cloud migration technologies, for hyperconvergence, for virtualization, for provisioning. Anything and everything that you can think about today seems to be made all that more easier with a lot of open source technology. Even newer, faster, quicker, more diverse programming languages being made available, and active contribution by the community to these languages through various forums on open source. The third new track that's being featured for the first time as part of GHCI is called Tech Products A to Z, but it's basically on product management. This track is, I think, going to be a unique one this year at GHCI, because it has both technical and non-technical aspects. We placed it here because we're still trying to figure out how to segregate the 2 dimensions of product management. Let's say one is completely product focused, product engineering. How do you take something from an idea to actually executing it as a product or delivering it as a product? But there's also multiple other dimensions to product management in terms of understanding business plans, understanding strategy, developing for certain markets, using the right kind of supporting information and data, interacting with the right kind of stakeholders, challenges in terms of looking at product management as a career, and so on and so forth. So it's a discipline that has multiple dimensions, which is why we called it Tech Products A to Z, and it has both the management as well as the non-technical as well as technical aspects to it. Apart from that, the other 3 tracks were there even last year, which is basically systems engineering, emerging technologies, data sciences, and machine learning. One of the reasons we kept data sciences and machine learning again this year was because of the feedback that we received. And in general, the feedback that we received from every conference is taken very seriously. One thing that's there, I think that's the charm of the conference, is also the fact that there's so much diversity in the audience itself. There are newcomers. There are, when I say newcomers, I mean first-time participants to the conference itself. There are between the early career and, let's say, 5 to 8 year experience profile. There's a distribution there. There is very interestingly, there's a vast majority now that's moving in from, this is the 7th year of the conference. So there are so many people that have now moved from mid-career to sort of senior management, senior technical roles, and you can very clearly see that they are seeking different dimensions out of this conference. They are seeking, some are seeking more depth, some are seeking more breadth. So a lot of that thought needs to go into submitting when you're submitting for a particular paper or a topic. That's the reason I brought it up. Try and keep the audience profile in mind. I just shared with you what that potentially looks like. Okay, and I'll pause here for a few more questions. Okay. I'll take the first one. One question which says, should we submit only innovations? Not necessarily. One thing that I have personally seen is that when you have actually worked on something with your hands, you actually created something, and you narrate that experience, that what you went through while implementing those real life challenges and what the outcomes were, that resonates very well with the audience. The next question is it absolutely required to have a panel like the template mentions for a technical paper? Not really, not really. Now, if it is in the context of, if you wish to create a panel discussion through one of the submissions, then do mention that as part of your abstract. Okay, as much as possible, try and provide information about the panel members. However, if you're still at a stage where you are envisioning the whole panel and what it looks like, that is also okay. So you could, let's say it's a 3-member panel or a 4-member panel, and in case you still haven't identified your panel members or are in the process of doing that, make sure that your abstract calls that out very clearly. Again, going back to what I said earlier, the abstract needs to be strong. It needs to really bring out the essence of what you're trying to submit. I'm looking at the next question here. What do you look for in an application related to open source? Programmer's experience as a developer contributing to open source projects who wants to give a submission. What all should I focus on the application? Okay, so I would say all these dimensions apply. If you've been an active developer and contributing to open source, I think we'd love to hear. I'm sure there are many people. I myself have faced these questions many times in the course of my work experience, where people come up and say, how can I contribute to open source? It's a bit of a challenge going through the rigor or the process of submitting into open source, and it'll be lovely if you have an idea, perhaps structured around the thoughts like a workshop, where you can very quickly create, let's say, a small API or a piece of code and actually walk the audience through how you do an open source submission. What are the gotchas? What do you watch out for? You can do any of that. Okay, next question. By when will we know that similar topics are collated into a track? This typically happens once the reviews start. There's a lot of discussion amongst the reviewers as well as the committees, and the committees will reach out in case there is a restructuring as soon as possible. Right. do we need to choose topics only from the list that is provided? By list, I'm assuming you mean the broad areas that have been specified. Um, well, these actually deal with different areas. So one suggestion would be try and see if, I'm assuming a lot of y'all are associated with the companies that have committee representatives on any one of the committees. Do reach out to your committee representative if she is there within your organization, because they are meeting every week to decide what subtopics are there in a particular area, and that should help give you better clarity. Or if you even want to, one thing that the committee has actively helped in the past is, even if your committee member is, let's say, part of a particular track, but you're interested in submitting on any other track, they can actually facilitate um, connecting you to those tracks. So do reach out.
Yeah. No, that was perfect.
Have you taken this?
Yeah.
I've taken this. Okay.
Two questions on the comment.
All right. Interested in the HCI track, can we merge or choose the random topic from the list provided? Do submit. Don't, because you know the description provided is a 150-word description, but I can tell you that a lot of thought has gone into. If I showed you the original, it was, I think, 4.5 pages. So the chairs have done a lovely job of actually structuring this track. It has many more dimensions other than what's listed there. Do go ahead and submit.
Yeah.
All right.
So the idea also is, to get newer ideas and look at newer thought processes coming in as well. So don't completely restrict yourself to some of the thoughts that you have, but do try and keep it within a framework, because then it's easy. When if it's totally random, then it kind of becomes difficult for us to pick and slot kind of a thing. But do come out. The idea is for all of you to get an opportunity to present new ideas and new thoughts.
All
right. There's another question here. I want to take this submission as a learning opportunity to research on new technology. Can I be a newbie on the technology and still make the submission, or are you expecting some kind of experience? This question has come to us quite often. See, when you really worked on something, there's two aspects to it, especially in the technology space. When you work on something, you have a better feel for it, even if it's new. If you've actually done a little bit of exploring in that area, and you can actually relate to that area better rather than just reading up on the technology, knowing about it, and then making a presentation. So if you have done a little work in that space, actually use the technology or aspects of that technology as part of your work or project, that would be more helpful. That would be something that the audience can take away. Because if it's something that someone can Google or learn online, you've sort of lost the audience there itself. Okay, the deadlines for submitting the abstract and the full paper. Kritika, do you want to take this?
Sure. Deadline for submitting the abstract and full paper. And is there a default template for submitting the abstract?
Yeah, there are default templates that are on the website. Under each of the categories, you will see different formats that you could use, and templates that you could use, very clearly put up on our website. Sorry, that question again, please. Yeah, in terms of templates, yeah, sorry, I'm going back to that question. In terms of templates, we do have templates that have been put up on our website under different submission types. Request you to, I think it's pretty clearly put out, and request you to take a look at that.
Yeah, so it's saying this. The template on your website has a Word document format.
Yeah,
Is this the syntax for white paper or Synopsis?
this is for. So what we expect for you to give us right now is a synopsis, and also be very clear about the kind of brief bio of people that you would, who's presenting or you would like to present. Right, because it's important to so how it also works is the author need not necessarily be the presenter, right? Because there are circumstances where we've seen that the at a conference you also want people to be good speakers, good presenters. So sometimes when there are great ideas, but we have had instances where the author has said, this is my paper, but I will not present, and here is who I recommend to present it. So we've had those situations as well. So what you present right now is like an abstract, like a synopsis, along with a brief bio, and just be as concise and as to the point as possible.
For workshops.
So yes, while planning for a workshop, we would like you to indicate what is the maximum number of people you could do this workshop for, right? Because a workshop, as we all know, cannot really be for an audience of 200, 250 people. But we'd also like to see that when you present for a workshop, that you have at least 2 or 3 presenters, right, who will work along with you, because otherwise it becomes difficult to conduct these workshops. If your paper gets selected, then you need people who will help facilitate for you, or give you support during in conducting the workshop. Those are something that gets worked out at the back end in terms of logistics and things like that. But while you present for a workshop, we want at least 2 people to be there to conduct that workshop. And also we'd like you to mention for how many people you can do this workshop, and also talk about what's the maximum room number of people you could take.
Subject matter expert, can it be from another organization as well?
Who can be our subject matter expert? A person from the same organization? I don't understand that question. There's a question here that says the subject matter expert can be from our organization or from another organization. It could be from another organization, because the idea is to bring together people from different companies together, get you to network with other organizations, see how you can collaborate and make some of these presentations, right? So the idea is to collaborate and network as well. So yes, your subject matter expert can be from another organization.
The submission be chosen on the basis of abstract only?
Could you take that, Chitra? Will the submission be chosen on the basis of abstract only,
or presentations as well?
While once it comes for review, it will have to be the complete presentation. That's the basis on which people do reviews. Okay, we need to have the complete presentation over there. However, why we're saying abstract is do submit your idea. Okay, so make sure that you have the abstract written up and submit it quickly, and then you can go and work off of your idea. But once it comes for reviews, it's the entire thing that we review.
Can I make multiple submissions?
Yes, you can.
Not the same paper in different tracks, but different submissions in different tracks. Yes, you can.
Should the submissions be in the Word format or PPT when you say presentations?
They ask for Word.
Yeah, it's in Word. Once your let's say your submission is shortlisted for presentation, then we'll send you the GHCI formats of the PPT, and then you'll have to translate it onto those. If a submission is aligned to more than one track, can we submit it under one track, or is there combo track? Okay, you submit it only under one track. So that's one thing that the review committee and all of us do, is that if we find that it's more relevant on another track, we do reach out to people on the other track So as a all of us on the advisory are very closely engaged with all the tracks. We do sync up regularly in terms of what kind of submissions are there on all the tracks. So there have been multiple occasions when if we felt that a particular submission would be better under a track other than where it was submitted, we do that, we transfer it over to the other track. Okay, how do we present a submission which is a novel way to analyze a data set? It seems to fall into machine learning track. How do I best present the applications of my way? Yes, the data sciences and machine learning track would be the best place for you to do that. What does the abstract contain? Is that bullet points of the main paper? So Saujanya, thank you for this question. One suggestion I would have is do reach out to people within your organizations who've done paper submissions at, let's say, scientific or other conferences earlier. Even if you went online, there are good short pieces on how to write a good abstract. It's not only in point form. Yes, it's a very crisp summary of your idea, but a powerful abstract is always a good thing to do. Is there a feedback channel in the process of selection or rejection, or do we just get to know if we made it or not? So yes, as part of the review process, there are fields where people do put in a couple of points in terms of why your paper was accepted or rejected. Yeah, this was a question that came before. Deadline for submitting abstract and full paper. The dates are actually on the GHCI website. Please do take a look at that.
I just can I just butt in,
Sure,
Chitra,
sure,
for a minute? I'd just like to add that every paper is reviewed by 3 different people, right? And so it's and we also make sure that somebody reviewing a paper is not reviewing a paper from the same organization as well. So there's a lot of due diligence that goes in as well, and it's remarks of 3 people, and the selection is based on that, and there's an overall ranking that happens. So in terms of feedback, while it's really not possible, it's not humanly possible for us to, also demand so much time from the volunteers as well, or to, give detailed comments. But all our volunteers do make time and put out, comments as to why a paper didn't get selected, while a detailed analysis or a report is really not possible. But everybody definitely puts in a lot of effort to give you back a certain amount of, at least a 2-line, 3-line feedback as to why a paper was not selected. So just wanted to ensure that everybody knows that and respects the time that's put into this.
Another point that I'd like to add here, Kritika, is that especially on some of the technical tracks, subject matter experts are people we try to reach out to during reviews, so that and we also assign potentially more than 3 reviewers for a paper, just to make sure that we can we're doing a good job of reviewing, let's say, an area that none of us are familiar with, or perhaps committee members are not aware of.
I see a question here on the codathon. When will the codathon be announced, and what is the theme this year? Our theme will remain the same, which is Tech for Good. You could just watch our Facebook and our webpage updates. In another 2 weeks, we should have all the details related to the codathon up and about on all our social media and our and our website as well. There's a slight change in the format from what we did last year, and that's why you will need to wait another 2 weeks to see some of these updates.
Should we move on to the management tracks?
Yeah. So just going to invite Shweta and Geeta to quickly run through some of the non-tech tracks, and then we'll take questions based on that. And
so hi guys.
hello.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, this is Geeta Prakash, working with Intel. So
You'll have to be louder.
yeah, I'm part of this track back to work. and campus to corporate, and other non-technical tracks. So in case you guys have any questions, we'll be more happy to. Yes, yes.
Hi, Shweta here. Uh, Again, I'm joining with Geeta and Shweta Srinivas to answer questions on non-tech tracks.
Hi, this is Shweta Shivram, and I'm on the advisory committee for the Grace Hopper Conference. And I'd be glad to take any questions that any of you have across the tech or the non-tech tracks. Briefly, I think just to talk about the non-tech tracks, we have about 6 main tracks under the non-tech section. We have Back to Work, which is for individuals who've taken a break from work for personal reasons or otherwise, and who now want to get back into the workforce. And some of you might have some questions around what needs to be done to get back into the workforce, right? And what are the things to keep yourselves abreast of, and so on. So that's about the Back to Work section. We have one from Campus to Corporate. This is for early career individuals. It is meant for folks with relatively less experience in the industry. So the Campus Corporate takes care of that track. We have one which is Career Mastery for Success, and this is, you could call it a cheat sheet track for any skills that are required to get into the workforce and make a place for yourself there. So the Career Mastery for Success will deal with skills, whatever they might be, to help you.
Basically, it is a soft skill.
Right. We also have the entrepreneurship track, and this, while we call it entrepreneurship, it's definitely aiming for folks who've been in their own ventures, who've created their own companies or ventures and gone ahead with that. But it also is for those in big corporates that are working in an entrepreneurial space, so to say, who've been able to drive certain ideas of theirs to completion and so on. So that's on the entrepreneurship track. We have a management excellence track next, and this is a track that targets senior management, mid to senior and senior management folks. Talk about deep issues in the workforce, management issues that crop up, right, in any workforce in our corporates today. So the management excellence track will deal with that. And we have a new entry this time into the non-tech tracks, and that's organizational transformation, right? The organizational transformation is key this year because we see a lot of companies going through this vast change in the way they handle different things, whether it's the way of working, whether it's dealing with their workforce, whether it's their marketing models, who they reach out to, and so on. So the organizational transformation sort of tries to put all of these together in one single place so that we can talk about multiple different topics there.
Yeah, just to add to Shweta's thing on org transformation, the org transformation is something that impacts people right from, let's say, newbies in the company right to the very experienced people, and it's particularly painful because it's first of all never in your control, and like as Shweta mentioned, it's due to so many factors that companies go through transformations, and that's happening more frequently than ever before. So what we're trying to do as part of this track is really get some very, very provocative and controversial discussions going. Because if you look at it in perspective, a lot of what happens in an org transformation discussions usually happen in huddles of people around water coolers, outside the office, and rarely in front of your own managers or your management that perhaps has some of the answers to the questions that might be going on in people's minds. So it's also about how to capture those feelings, those experiences, and also how do managers in such situation react and behave. So it's not going to be teaching sessions. I think it's going to be more of discussion, more of learning. We'd also love to talk to somebody with a big question: why do organization transformations fail day in and day out? I mean, what's the reason behind it? So these are the kind of topics that we're looking at for org transformation. It's the first on the management track, and we'd like to really see, get the right kind of people to make an impact with this track.
See if we have questions. We are still on abstract reviews.
I'm interested in helping with abstract reviews. How do I get connected with the right tracks to help?
Or is it
We
Or is
answered
it too
that.
late for a safe
Can we?
So to just another point, Shweta, with your management excellence thing, I was explaining earlier that the profile of the attendees to the conference is also changing over the past few years, with a lot of people moving into senior management roles now and actually looking for those kind of takeaways from the conference. So this is also one opportunity or one track where people can really bring together perhaps a good senior management experience, absolutely hands-on experience. It could be in the form of panel discussions, it could be in the form of workshops that simulate situations and so on.
So I think one of the interesting facts there, Chitra, is that as our workforce has matured, right, and we've been in the software industry for a while now, we're not probably as old as the Western countries yet, and some of the challenges that we face locally are very different from those that are found in the Western nations. So it would probably be a good idea for some of the entries that are coming in to tailor their submissions to issues that are faced by the local population, by the workforce here. It could be simply about managing millennials who have a conservative upbringing, but they see so much happening outside in the world. So there are multiple facets that we can look at in the management excellence. We'd also like to look at, so one of the things we did last year was talk about certain new topics that haven't really been spoken about in conferences at this scale, and some of them are around the imposter syndrome and how a lot of high achieving women battle with syndromes such as these. So we'd like to invite more people to talk about these issues and get more insights on what's happening in the workforce and how different companies are dealing with them. Okay, so there's a question here from Shubha Ramdas. It says, though it's a non-technical track, can it end technical? In the sense, from campus to corporate, I may have a technical career in corporate now. So Shubha, if I understand your question correctly, you're talking about, even though it's a non-tech track, would you be able to talk about technical issues in tracks such as the campus to corporate, right? And I think for the campus to corporate, it's, we have a technical and a non-technical track, and it's really not, we're not going to say, yeah, don't talk about anything technical in the non-technical track. For a campus to corporate, ideally, we'd like the submissions in that track to cater to individuals who haven't had an exposure to the corporate world. They're probably individuals who've studied in a particular place, lived in a place all their life, and this is probably their first exposure outside of where they are. So while we're talking about technical stuff and making them ready for what they're going to face in the industry, we'd also like to touch upon non-technical and soft skill issues that they could benefit from.
Yes, and it's also the transition that one makes from being on campus to actually working within an organization. It's nice that these programs have been introduced, in the past 8 to 10 years in corporates. So it sort of helps college students ease into the corporate environment that much better. And that's why this program has actually proven to be a success even at GHCI.
I'd just like to add a couple of points. So what we basically try to look into campus to corporate areas are like, if you can provide some of the inputs on what are the ways to get internships in different organizations, or are there any ways to find which organization is calling for interviews, because this time, like, we are more focusing for student's perspective rather than early career alone, right? So whatever points we can get, if we can address some of the challenges that students are facing, that will be actually great, because the targeted audience are students, giving less priority for the early career. So it will be great to address those challenges rather than giving more of technical, because we have lots of other technical tracks which will address the similar areas. So if your paper is more of technical, go ahead with the technical tracks so that it don't dilute the overall content.
So the question from Jayashree Nagaraj says, for organizational behavior, a good track to talk about diversity initiatives at workplaces and what is required to see progress here.
So I think what she's trying to ask is
organizational behavior a good track?
And what do you
So-
need to track progress?
Okay, so I think we're talking about organizational transformation, right, in the track, and the transformation could be at any level. It could be in terms of diversity,
So
inclusion.
actually, the org transformation track does not have a gender diversity piece to it. One of the reasons being this track has been pretty much done to death in all of the previous conferences. I think in the first 5 years of the conference, we've had multiple management tracks deal with organizational behavior towards gender diversity, its incorporation, its challenges. We've had multiple sessions on this in the past. So this year there is the organizational transformation track will certainly not be having anything on these lines.
Yeah.
However, it's a good topic. It's still a very relevant topic, but since we've done so much of the topic in the past few years, we've chosen not to give it a lot of focus.
This particular track basically, focuses on how the organization undergo restructuring, especially when there is something like they have to focus on their strategy, company strategy, and how people are kind of realigned themselves among the organization. Some people may lose up their job, like some may kind of had to learn new skills, and those are the factors that contributes to this track. So if your paper is aligned with that front, definitely it will be a reference note or reference point for people who come and attend this presentation.
Okay, the next question from Sangeeta Bangar is regarding entrepreneur topic. I'm neither entrepreneur nor working in the space presently, but I'm interested in the marketing trends in this area. Will it still hold place if the topic is interesting? So Sangeeta, I think one of the cheat sheets for getting your submission accepted is while you might be interested, can you get folks who've undergone themselves or experienced some of these topics that you're speaking about, right? You mentioned you were interested in marketing trends, right? So do you know of an individual that's put that information to use somehow to their advantage? So you could very well go ahead and submit a paper, a panel discussion maybe, or you could have it in an interview style where you are talking to someone who has experience in that area, who've analyzed marketing trends and used some of that information in a non-conventional way to create success in whatever it is that they're doing, right? So definitely go ahead, create a submission, look out for folks in that area who have the experience, who can partner with you, and I'm sure it should be a good submission that we can review and look at.
And to add to what Shweta said, since you said you were looking for a learning experience, I think when you collaborate with others, that becomes part of your learning too.
Yep. Okay, it says on topic back to work, is the format for this topic like a presentation followed by a panel talk? So across all our tracks, we have multiple formats. We have panel discussion as a format. We have an individual speaker presentation as a format. So you could choose what fits your topic the best. There is no one size fits all. Depending on your submission, depending on who the speakers are for your submission, choose whether a panel would be ideal or if a presentation would be ideal, and go ahead and submit your your submission.
I don't see any question.
Okay.
Okay, meanwhile, we can share some points on what could be a better fit for back to work.
Right.
So we have been hearing success stories of women on how they got back to work after their maternity or personal reasons, right? So it would be great to have some submissions where people talk about what are the other opportunities rather than focusing on an individual. So in a general way, are there any organizations which are providing some support? Like I have seen one of the things happening with TCS where they give apprenticeship training for people to get back to work. There are different forums which are helping people. Meetups are there. So if people can bring up these ideas, which basically help women to get back to work, these are the interesting ideas. And actually, there is a lot of innovation that can happen in back to work rather than sharing the same success stories of an individual. So we would encourage to have some of those areas of research rather than just as individual.
Right. And another point here is, for example, someone came up with this idea of how about having a workshop where it becomes a build your resume in 30 minutes kind of a session. Right? You need something to bootstrap, something to kickstart that enthusiasm, and let alone people who've taken a break, but also people who are been in the industry for a long time and you're looking for a change. The biggest blockers are how do you update your resume?
That's
right? So if as part of back to work, someone could do a workshop saying, okay, in 30 minutes, here's how you build your resume and get it out there online and do it. I think that would be something really interesting or different from a back to work perspective.
Shweta, you brought up an interesting point around how different uh, companies are going through the back to work and what are the policies that they are getting in, right? And I think some of them might have very different strategies around back to work. So if actually one of the things that we could do is get a variety of different folks together to talk about how they are attacking this problem, right? And some of them, might be very unconventional things that, typically are not done. So it would be good to have a mix of such folks in a panel discussion to hear their thoughts out. That would be interesting.
Also, there are situations where people come back to work. Okay, they start off, they find it very disconnected. Meaning, like, oh, why did I join at all after this many years? So, how do you kind of motivate that audience also? This is an opportunity for people to put some very, very important points as to yes, back to work is a little challenging. At the same time, it could be very rewarding also. So, what are the factors? What needs to be considered for a person who is joining an organization after a break? So those aspects, if it is kind of taken care while submitting your paper, it will be very beneficial for the
So
audience.
how about this? Have we also thought about, it could be a break and coming back, but how about someone who is not working in India for some time, was abroad in in a different location, and they're coming back home right now? And what is the scene like back at home, right? And how do they go about approaching different companies and looking at what they're
Yeah, even that will give a very good insight of how people can get back to work once they are back to their motherland, right? So obviously, those areas can be explored in a better way. Also, providing pointers on what is the market, because every country market standards may not be same. What the expectation in the industry is also different with respect to geographical locations as well. So how to reach out to those areas, how to tackle those things. So if we can provide some pointers around these areas, it will be amazing.
There's some questions that are coming in. You want to read out, Lisa?
Are there any questions?
No, not those. So one question that came is for the entrepreneurial track, right? Following up is if I can't bring the person in, can I record an interview and bring it and I present it?
So ideally, it would be great if we could have face-to-face interaction, right? I mean, the audiences come to see people in person, in flesh. And I think that's one of the selling points of most of conferences. You get to meet the who's who, or people who've achieved things in their life. And it's not just their presentation during the conference or, the talk that they have for 30 minutes. It's an opportunity for the audience to actually go talk to them later, right? Post session, pre session, during lunch, tea, whatever it is, an opportunity to network. So, typically we'd say, get the person there. That's your winning bet to get your submission in. Yeah.
Exactly.
And also, if I recall from past conferences, there's a WEQ, right? The Women Entrepreneurship Quest. I have never seen the audience respond like they do when they're part of that session.
Yeah.
You're actually listening to people who've done it, who've lived through it, their challenges, starting from issues like funding or getting a POC or getting acceptance for that idea. There's nothing like being right in front of the person who actually did it.
So there was this one case I remember last year, when the Chennai floods happened, and one of our participant teams could not make it to the venue because of the floods, because there was absolutely no way for them to get out of Chennai. Then we allowed, recording to happen. So yes, there are possibilities, but not always.
Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Maybe just to add on top of what the question is. So, if at all you're building the entire story and just having the interview to add a touch of it, that is still fine. But not the entire thing recorded and you are just showing it as a video, that won't seem to be that great because people may not be able to ask those questions whatever turn up, right? So it should be the other way where you have a small clipping to play, which can be beneficial rather.
The other question is on speaker certificates this year. So yes, we are providing speaker certificates. How many entries are shortlisted for each format?
There's no specific number.
Number, yeah.
We've had submissions as high as 186 in a single track. 200, 300 submissions.
Yeah, so there's no fixed number. Sometimes we find that multiple submissions probably go together. So you punch them up together as a single session, have multiple speakers, or make it a panel discussion, although they came in as individual presentations. Sometimes we cut short a 60-minute session into 2 or 3 sessions of 20 minutes each, where we have similar topics being presented by different folks with different viewpoints on the same topic. So really, there's no standard that we follow, so to say. We try to give the best topics and the best things that people would like to hear as much as we can.
Can we submit the entire paper at once?
Of course,
Yes.
Yeah. We actually love that.
Yeah. Entrepreneurial track. Is it okay if the entrepreneur I'm referring to is not a woman?
So let's say this, right? This is a conference for women. Having said that, we're not going to say no if you have someone who's not a woman on the panel on your session, but try and make it a good mix, right? We always get to hear men, whether at work or otherwise or in the world. So give women a chance.
There was one question on sample submissions. They are up on the website. You will be able to see sample submissions on the website. Okay, so her question is it okay if I get a guy who's an entrepreneur?
Just one?
You just answer the question.
I don't see any more questions.
Do we just want to run through the submission tips with we did?
So one thing is we're sort of on the hour. So if this is already available online, we can put it up on the website as well as thinking. So maybe very quickly another few questions and then we wind up.
I don't see any questions.
Okay, meanwhile, do you want to talk more on the career mastery for success? Something.
So this is a rebranding that we've done, right?
Yeah.
We earlier used to call this a soft skills track, or sometimes it used to be the track which had the motto or the theme of the year as its title. So why we talk about soft skills, right? I mean, there's been so many different topics that we've talked about in the last few years, right? A variety of topics, and some of those topics really we've dealt with enough,
mastered, actually.
right? We've mastered it,
Mastered
right?
them, yeah.
I think some of the topics I'd probably call out here is personal branding, mentorship, sponsorship. So all these have been sort of beaten to death. We've really done a whole lot of different types of speakers in various formats, different viewpoints, done workshops, panels, presentations over the last 5 years on some of these topics. So I'd say go out of your way there, right? Go out of your way, look at what's happening. We were recently talking in one of the meetings for the Career Mastery for Success. I was saying, why don't we look at interactions in the workplace, right? and this is nothing to do with male female, but just about how psychologically a man reacts to a woman or a woman reacts to a woman, and look at such interactions in the workplace, right? And some of these you can really use to your benefit. It need not be just, only in your workplace, but even in general life, as you go about it, how can you use some of the tips there to your advantage and so on? Would you like to add something?
And also how to handle office politics. That is something like,
So in fact, this comes up
yes,
all the time.
all the time,
And,
every single day, day in, day out.
yeah. So in one thought that crosses my mind, and maybe I will put it out there. It's can you really separate personal and professional life? You're the same individual. You're dealing with humans all the time, right? So when people say you draw this line, is it really possible to even draw that line? Because at the end of the day, unless you're engaged in relationship with another human being, whether it's at work or whether it's at home, it's the same thing. So if if you can craft something around this, it'll be controversial enough to stir the pot, okay, and bring in some excitement to what's happening. But I think it's like to Shweta's point and Geeta's point also, it's important to at least acknowledge and be aware of it. Although you need not carry your home troubles to work and your work troubles home, that's not it. But at some plane, I think it's important to recognize that it's the same individual and it's the same individuals that you're dealing with day in and day out. So how do you strive for a better relationship so that everything improves on all fronts?
There's one question on for tracks which are new, like product management. There are probably no earlier references. Yeah,
Correct.
that's correct.
Yeah. So are you on the product management track? Are you committee member? But if you have a specific question, I can take it. The reason I asked was if you're already on the product management committee, they're making excellent headway there. They have a good structure in place. But if you're interested in knowing what kind of submissions you can make, it could be experiences as a product manager. What are your challenges in terms of, let's say, tying together business needs, market strategy, company bottom line, success in the market, creating value for a customer, all of those dimensions. How to use tools to enhance your trade of product management, like analytics, like collaboration tools and other things. What does it take to be a good product manager? What are the hard things of being a product manager? So these are all the how does product management work with different stakeholders in an organization? All these are dimensions of this track.
I think even product management as agile has come into the organizations. How has product management itself changed? The role of the product manager.
Absolutely.
Distinctions between a product owner and a product manager. A lot of these things can go in there. One of the topics we spoke about, I think, in the last meeting was how are we applying product management techniques from the non-tech world in the tech world. So there are a variety of things that you can talk about. So there's one question here which says that in the non-technical tracks, the topics are common. Most of them seem to have been covered in previous years. How can topics be worked on so that you have an audience buy-in? It's a good question. Think about controversial topics. I think we've dealt with all the same ones.
We spoke at least in the
examples
career mastery as well as organizational transformation and back to work. Try and bring in things that
you generally don't talk about.
Just to add to this question, see, in every area there can be some level of research that could be. So just go Google and see, like, try to take a step back and see what the problem looks like from the outside world. Just don't be part of the problem. See it from the outside world, so you'll be able to figure out lots of problems, interesting ones, and you can come up with good papers.
Yes, that's a good one.
There's one question where somebody wants to see all the paper submissions from GHCI 2011, and you can only have access to 2015, but that's the only access you will have. So you'll have to do with the 2015 submissions as sample submissions.
I'm not sure if it's only for the sample that they're asking, or do you want to know what topics have already been presented since 2011 so you don't make a repeat of any of the topics? Well, that's a fair question, but you should be able to go see our schedules, I think, at least from previous conferences, and that should give you an idea of what topics were submitted and spoken about, at least in past conferences.
Between Shweta and me, we can do a dedicated session.
Yeah.
for that.
All
All right, any more questions?
Eligibility criteria for any submissions.
I think it's
It has
listed
to
on the
make
website.
sense.
Yeah.
It's listed on the website.
People should read, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay,
great.
thank you very much.
Thank you all for
We
listening.
hope to have a rocking conference this time and for your
Thank you
submissions.
for
as well.
all the questions. Very good ones.
Good luck.
So, all the best. And feel free to reach out anytime.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Very
We'll
good.
call Deepak. Yeah. Otherwise, we can go out.
They won't let me get in from the
Yes.
out from the restroom to come here.
Exactly.
Stop broadcast. Just stop broadcast. Stop broadcast.
How are you?